All right, so think back to about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's nighttime at your visit. Paul is visiting us, and it's nighttime. What do you think we're going to do?
Ooh, do we play the... There's two games I can think of. I think I know the right one. The first game I was thinking was just the we hide outside game and try and see each other.
The night game.
The night game?
That's what I was thinking of. What was the other one?
I was thinking the quiet game.
That's a classic.
We'll get to that later.
We'll get to the quiet game later. So describe the night game for us.
My memory of it is one of us would just go outside and hide in the woods, and the other two of us would go out with flashlights or something and just be looking for the other person.
So I remember usually it was the three of us would hide, and your dad and my dad would come out, and they'd like they'd shout out like threatening things. I'm gonna find you, and we'd hide all around.
I recall that now. Would they have flashlights and stuff?
Yeah, they had flashlights. Yeah,
we were just out there terrified.
Well, I remember once. It was thrilling and kind of scary because you'd see where they were with the flashlight. And but I remember once Pat, during the day, we like hammered up some boards so he could climb a tree.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they were looking low for us, and so I don't think they ever found you. Do you remember that?
I don't think so. He was like right underneath me. I think it was Dad, but
that's pretty cool.
I don't think he saw me.
I remember that. I remember the most fun I ever had was when we made our own little like bathroom system out there.
Oh yeah, that was pretty neat.
We got a bunch of pipes and pushed them together and made an outdoor urinal, which was great. I loved it.
I do remember that. That was for our theme park. We like tied ropes to the trees, and you could like swing on the trees. And we thought, well, every theme park needs a bathroom. So how are we going to do?
Yep. That was fun.
And then we realized we needed a toilet seat, so we found an old piece of wood and we used a rock to make a hole in it.
Yeah.
It had all splinters all over the place.
I don't think I ever wanted to use that one as much as the urinal we made.
No, I don't think so.
It was fun.
And then you mentioned the quiet game, and that was your invention.
Oh, the quiet game. Late at night, we were all sleeping in the same room, and the two of you were just talking nonstop, and I was trying to sleep. So I was like, guys, have you ever played the quiet game? And like, what's that? I was like, oh, the last one to talk wins. So if you talk, you're out.
And of course, it was just to make us be quiet.
Yeah,
but
just make
we'd wake up the next morning, and we'd like, Paul, who won the quiet game last night?
Like, well,
you were probably thinking I won.
I won because I got to sleep.
All right, so this is Scene by Scene. I'm Mark Ross.
I'm Paul Kraig.
And I'm Pat Diablo.
And we're going to be talking about something that we filmed in that era, GK Star Trek, our first series of films. These were directed by Paul's dad and Pat and my dad, and Star Trek fan films. This is Sublimation of the Mind, which the original title in 2001 was Prions, and we're talking about the re-edit I did in 2015 just with new special effects and sound effects, a little bit more watchable, but certainly a classic one. Mm-hmm. And so again, this was July 2001 that we filmed this one. And the re-edit starts with some stock footage of the USS Enterprise, and we open in Paul's living room. This is the only GK Star Trek we filmed at Paul's house, and it was also the first one with Captain Sarah. So a female captain aboard the Enterprise, very forward-thinking,
progressive.
Very progressive.
Love to see it.
It looks like Paul is on the helm. And we have Lieutenant Linda sitting at the helm as well, and Dr. Martin, who also apparently is doing like science officer duties, as we'll see in a moment.
Very talented crew.
Very talented crew indeed. So we start with Lieutenant Linda saying, I think those dirty Monsterians won't be bothering us again.
Those dirty Monsterians.
A reference to the perennial enemy of this crew on the Enterprise. And then, so I'm playing the Doctor in this one, but I guess I am communications, because I say there's a distress signal, Captain. I pronounce it more like a distressed single captain.
Distressed single captain.
And Captain Sarah asks for more information. I give the the bearing and all that stuff. It's very far away. It's not the Monasterians. She orders that we go there at maximum warp. Paul says, "Aye, aye, Captain." And the red alert begins.
And so begins their journey to
a very satisfying conclusion, as we'll get to in a
yeah.
So they come to what is described as a small planet named Kukushna, and they decide to beam down after Lieutenant Peter notices it looks dead, and they beam down in front of this big pile of dirt. Do you remember what that was from?
I remember vividly. Our neighbor's house was getting built. I guess they're making the foundation, a nice dirt pile. I had a lot of good hours spent climbing around that dirt pile as a little kiddo.
And I remember your dad being really excited to use it as a backdrop for... So I guess it's supposed to be like, the destruction from there's something terrible happened on this planet. We all start climbing around the dirt pile. Yeah. I remember that being a lot of fun.
So no, all three boys immediately went up the dirt pile, like we just couldn't resist.
And then Lieutenant Phillip calls out, "Captain, over here it looks like some sort of blast hole."
This was another dirt pile I had in my backyard, in which in the center I just started digging a big old hole. It took me several weeks to get it to the size you see on screen, but I loved digging my hole.
I remember you described it as a foxhole, and we'd crouch down.
Yeah, we'd crouch down and pretend to be fighting in World War II or whatnot.
Yeah, dodging bombs or missiles or whatever.
Yeah, I had a great childhood playing in dirt.
As every boy should.
Mm-hmm.
Then Lieutenant Linda and Dr. Martin find phaser blast holes. One of them looks like a metal pipe coming out of the ground.
So this is actually a old septic tank that was completely empty in my backyard. And if you fast forward about 10 years, eventually my dad made me jackhammer through it. It was about 4 inches of reinforced concrete. And I eventually got through the thing and filled it in with gravel. But yeah, we just had this here. We also had a big patch of dead grass there because the dirt was only like 4 inches deep at all times.
That was about where your fish pond was later on,
not too far from that. Yeah. So we're using these as blast holes.
Yeah, phaser blast holes, and of course, so much for science. They should have been able to tell with that tricorder that it was actually a septic tank.
Yeah. Well, they're doing their best. The other one's actually a groundhog hole.
A groundhog hole.
Yeah.
So by now the crew can tell that there was a big fight down here. And Pat, do you remember your big line? Captain, it's a building.
I thought it was pretty well said.
Yeah, you made it clear.
Is that just me?
Everyone now is aware of the building.
We were like 6 or 7 years old here at the most, so I think a pretty good delivery.
Big line.
Did the best
Captain, it's a building.
I see you have your German soccer shirt on, inside out, with a little tinfoil Star Trek badge on it. And this was from like a National Geographic magazine, the picture of the building.
Yep. And now we're in my basement, which you would believe is actually the National Geographic hut.
And of course, this was used in a lot of the Agent 07 movies as a bad guy's lair over and over again.
Yeah, I should count how many different bad guys' lairs were in my basement. It was a spooky basement. It was a good set piece.
Yeah,
it was.
Captain Sarah says, "This looks really horrible." I remember your dad being proud of the sort of irony of that line.
Yeah, it's our house.
And we find a survivor, and this is played by my dad. One of our dads would make an appearance as either a villain or someone who needed to be rescued. So we help this survivor up. I start my tricorder, which with a really high pitch
the entire time.
I know.
Annoying.
I really think your dad told me to do that, but
I'm sure he did. It was just.
And they question what happened here, and my dad kind of alters some original Star Trek series lines from an actual episode. I don't remember which one, but where the planet was attacked. And he says that, these bad guys, these aliens out of nowhere, they blasted our defenses.
We had women and children. Yes. Love that line. He does a great job delivering.
He does.
It's very intense.
And they launched a virus attack, and then comes the best part, which is when he vomits up blood, which is supposed to be his brain from these brain-eating Prions dissolving his brain.
Yep, there it comes. It is graphic. It is. Just coughing up ketchup.
I remember when we showed this to your mom and my mom the first time, they like screamed.
What?
But I think we used ketchup and water
I believe so.
which he did not enjoy keeping in his mouth long enough to like start the take. And they, Captain Sarah, of course, you need to tell us more. And he says, the answer is, and dies.
Because we figure out that we're all probably infected.
Yes.
Right.
And so, of course, the first thing Captain Sarah does, as we all learned from the COVID quarantine, is get back to the ship.
Back to the ship immediately.
We might be infected already.
So let's go back to the ship.
So we're in the doctor's, in the sick bay now. We have some medicine lined up on the table. I'm looking into a pair of binoculars. And we're all infected.
Somehow figure out from those binoculars that we're all infected. You have some like little toy veterinarian stethoscope around here.
Well, you need all the right tools, right? Mm-hmm. Captain Sarah beats on the table. You've got to find a cure. She's known for beating on the table.
She beats on a lot of tables. Tables around her.
In the later Star Trek, when she's the captain again, she's beating on the table. So she doesn't take any nonsense. And so we come to this montage where helmsman Linda is apparently helping me again with
the test guinea pig Phoebe.
Yeah, Phoebe the test guinea pig.
It might have been Chloe. And then you discover the secret. It's pouring one cup of water into another similar cup.
And I look at it intently and I say, I've got it. And so we come back to the bridge, end of scene, and we're giving the hypo to everyone with antidote.
Giving the vaccine or something.
As you noted, it seems like they use the same needle.
We use one needle for all of us, just going right down the line.
And I love, so we were told always to kind of grimace when we got the shot.
Ooh, yeah.
And I love that was a good Pat's reaction at the very end. He just looks like,
he looks relieved.
Felt so much better after that. My brain is healed.
And so Captain Sarah says, helmsman, take us to our next assignment.
Yep.
And there it is.
So what did the crew accomplish in this episode?
Not much. I guess
got to a planet.
They couldn't save the planet. All they could do really was save themselves. So I guess that's kind of an accomplishment.
They didn't die. They lived for another day. But I've noticed in our episodes, the crew doesn't get much done.
No. I mean, they discovered a new disease.
Yeah, they discovered a cure. So I guess if anyone else gets it, they can.
That's true.
So that's a good. It's a silver lining there.
Mm-hmm. H2O.
Yeah, just a glass of water.
Injecting H2O
straight into your veins.
So there it is. Do you think that this is the best GK Star Trek, or do you think there's one that's better?
This is up there. I think my personal favorite one is where my dad is crash landing on a planet, and they go
the probe.
Then Captain Sarah gets probed or something.
Yeah, and it sucks her energy, and we have real fire in that scene.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that one another time.
Mm-hmm. But this one's up there.
This one definitely has some classic moments.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Paul on that one, but this is definitely a close second for me.
I think the Beam to Oblivion, the last one we did, is the strongest in terms of sort of the professionalism, and the plot kind of is interesting and original. But this one's a fun one too. This has been Scene by Scene. Thanks for listening. Scene by Scene is produced by GK Music and Magic Voice Records.